I don't usually talk about my health because I'm pretty healthy, thank goodness, knock on wood. But recently I started having kind of ringing in the ears. It's actually more ringing in the top of my head, or right up here. And it's tinnitus or tinnitus, however you want to say it. And so one day it got so bad that it was kind of like roaring, and I thought, this is ridiculous. So I called my doctor and I got an appointment for the next week, and it came and went. You know, it wasn't there all the time, but that one day really convinced me I needed to get it checked out. So I did. I went to the doctor's appointment. My doctor wasn't available, and they told me this when they, scheduled my appointment. And I saw a nurse practitioner. She was fine, but, I knew what the response was going to be. We can't do anything, because I had done a lot of online research and talked to different people. And that is the consensus, that there's really nothing you can do about it. The severity, is different for everybody, whether it's all the time or whether it comes and goes. So I sort of knew what to expect, and I didn't really learn anything from the visit other than she offered to recommend me to an audiologist to have a hearing test. And I told her I can hear perfectly well, and I can. I have eagle ears. I can hear everything. And she said, that's fine. If you don't want the test, that's okay. But if you ever want to go to an ear, nose, and throat, an ENT doctor for this, you'll have to have a hearing test. So I thought, okay, I'll go have a hearing test, because, that made sense. If that's the next step, if I ever need to go see a specialist, then I would have that part done. So I got a call from the audiologist's office and made an appointment. So I went last week to that appointment. And as I suspected, my hearing is normal. I have an audiogram, and I pulled it up here on my computer. It's basically an audiogram graph, shows sound pitch, which is frequency, and from left low to right high, whatever that means. And the vertical, that was the horizontal axis, and the vertical axis shows sound loudness, intensity, from top soft to bottom loud. So numbers on the left, and I'll show you my audiogram here on the screen. The numbers on the right, the y-axis, are decibels, and 0 to 15 decibels, HL, is considered to be normal hearing. Symbols like 0 for the right ear, or O for the right ear, and X for the left ear show the quietest sounds you can hear. The thresholds with their position indicating the degree and type of hearing loss. And mine was all in the normal area, as you can see from this audiogram. So that was good to know, that my sensitive, very good hearing is normal. It wasn't anything special. I thought maybe it was, because I can hear everything. I wake up to the birds chirping if I have the windows open. I learned quite a bit from the audiologist, though. I'm glad I went, because here's what she told me. Some ways the audiologist said that tinnitus can come and go is if you have insomnia, if you have trouble sleeping, don't get enough sleep, it can cause the ear ringing or the ringing in your head, whatever it is. Stress, and those two things I do suffer from. Stress really bothers me in different ways, and if I don't get enough sleep, which is not as bad as it used to be, but that can cause trouble. I believe both of those as reasons. Being around loud noises, I guess, can bring it on again. just different things. And she mentioned the eustachian tubes, and a few years ago I had a blocked eustachian tube on this side, and it's basically like having the mumps. My face swelled up, and when I chewed food, it hurt, and it tasted like sour pickles. I don't know why that happened, but basically the doctor told me to do this, and it helps the lymph glands drain, and to I believe put heat and cold on it. I don't remember exactly. I would look it up if you want to try this, but I didn't know what was wrong, and so I went to the doctor for that. But all of, your ears, nose, and throat basically are connected. That's why they call them ear, nose, and throat doctors. But while they were doing the hearing test, I wanted to mention she put these cone things. They felt like they were as big as my little finger in my ear, straight in. I thought it would be like headphones, but it was like some sort of pointy little thing. And I said, "Don't puncture my eardrums." And she didn't, of course, but it was really odd feeling. While these little pointy things that felt pointy, I don't know if they were, it was hard for me to breathe. I had to kind of keep breathing through my mouth. It was very strange, because I guess it's all connected, and it was something in the way, blocking my normal pipes and tubes. So that was really interesting. Basically, she said she also has tinnitus, or she called it tinnitus. I don't like that pronunciation, but I mentioned mine was in the top of my head, and she said, yes, it's not really, a lot of people say it's not in the ears, it's in the top of the head. And that's common, evidently, and that it comes and goes, that it's worse whenever there are loud noises or perfect quiet, silence. And that is true. I told her that I often, if it's too quiet, I can hear it. I can just, like right now, it's a buzzing. I described it as like an insect sound or a humming fluorescent light sound. It's just I don't know how to replicate it, but she said, yes, that's very common. That's how people describe it sometimes. And she said, whenever it's real loud or real quiet, it's usually worse. You notice it more. And I said, I turn on the TV a lot because it gives me something to focus on. I'm looking at my TV. It's over there. And she said, yes, to cope with it, there are ways to do it, and that's one of them, to distract yourself, basically. And at night, I have used a sound machine for years, decades, because it is too quiet otherwise. I hear every little thing. When I had a cat, I would hear the cat jump from the bed to the floor or whatever. I mean, if a car drove by, I would hear this car. I can hear everything. And so I usually have the sound machine on rain. That's a good just sound. And I will play it for you here so that you know what I mean. It's very comforting. Okay, I'm going to show you my iPad. It's Bell Tone is the app I use, and it has this display, and you can choose peaceful morning, evening forest, at the beach, fire and rain, underwater, and then there's a plus sign. And I just hit the plus sign, and I scroll down. There are lots of options: birds, brook, bubbles, cicadas, cavern, crickets, just all kinds of stuff. But I scroll down or up, whatever, and I select heavy rain right here. And that is what I listen to all night. It's very soothing. I love it. I just set my iPad on the dresser next to my bed, the little nightstand, and I have it at that volume, and it's perfect. That's what my brain concentrates on instead of hearing all the little noises. So when I mentioned these things to the audiologist, she said that's good. She has to do the same thing, that she recently stayed at a hotel where it was so quiet that she could not sleep. And she tried to turn on the air conditioning, but it was a very quiet one. It made no noise. The fan didn't make a noise. And I don't know why she didn't get her iPhone or, phone or iPad out and just download an app, because that's what I do. I have to use this. And if I'm staying somewhere, like I stayed in a hotel recently with a friend who was in a different bed, and I said, do you mind if I use my sound machine? And I turned it on for her, and she goes, yeah, that's fine. And in fact, she wanted to take a nap one afternoon, and she said, could you turn on that sound thing again? And she really liked it. So I don't know if she uses it now, but it works for me. And it was just reassuring to hear from this doctor. I mean, she's not a medical doctor. I looked her up, but it's the audiologist she has a doctorate in hearing and whatnot. I don't know for sure what they study, but it was very helpful. I don't know. They don't know what causes tinnitus. It could be exposure to a loud sound. It could just be, she did say that as we age, it's more common for people to get tinnitus or tinnitus. And I have aged. I'm over 65, and that's probably it. And she said it's also very common to have hearing loss, which I don't have at all. Thank goodness. Sometimes I curse my good hearing, but it's better than not being able to hear. I love it. But I told her I do wear trifocals. These are progressive lenses. So that makes up for it, maybe. So what about you? Have you ever had tinnitus or tinnitus or ringing in the top of your head or in your ears? How have you dealt with it? Because I really am curious if there are other tricks that I could do to kind of trick my brain into not thinking about it, because it's, you sit and think about it and it gets worse. It really does. And I feel like having, the sound machine, turning on the TV, removing myself from stressful situations, because she did say stress can bring it on. And I think that's probably when mine gets worse, is if I'm stressed out. So, and that tends to go along with how I react to things. I've had shingles a lot in my life, and that was caused by stress every time. So it makes sense. But I'd like to hear how you have dealt with this problem, or if you don't have it, good. I hope you don't have it. I wish I didn't, but I do. And it comes and goes. There are some days when I don't have it at all. But like today, it's buzzing, a little buzzing in my head. So let me know. I would love to hear, and I hope it's not debilitating or anything for you, because I can see how it would be. Just very distracting and kind of stressful to deal with. And if you're new here, I am Do It Myself Peg, and I talk about frugal living and other aging situations kind of like this, different things. And I'm so glad you're here, and I appreciate you all. And I will see you next time.